So we're a year on from the release of ChatGPT, and it has shot AI well and truly into the mainstream, leaving organisations scrambling to work out what the impact's going to be. I'm here today joined by the head of cloud and data for Heathrow Airport, Andy Eisman, and we're just going to talk for a little bit about how AI is impacting Heathrow and some of the challenges that you're looking to try and head off over the coming months and years. 2023 has been described as a generative AI's breakout year. And I'm interested in what you think that means for Heathrow and other organisations over the coming months and years.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, and I think what ChatGPT and the follow-on race between the large technology organisations has given us, has really brought AI to the imagination of the whole world. It's probably important to remember that it's been going on for a little while now. It's many years since the computers started beating chess players in AI. I think it's a great opportunity. I think now the world's imagination has been set by it, and we've got a real opportunity to deliver AI across the board, not just the generative AI that we see being talked about the most today. In terms of where our business and other businesses maybe should be looking, I think there's got to be a really good look and review as to how AI can improve your business. I think it's got to be very well thought out, because I think if it's not, it's going to be an incredibly expensive game for people to play. And I think the other area that is really important to look at is the upcoming regulation. Some organisations will do some stuff that will then subsequently be regulated. Some other organisations will wait until regulation takes place before committing. My view is that we need to balance between the two, and to be making the most of the technologies that are available to us at the moment, but in line with where we think future regulation may go.
And on the regulation piece, do you have an idea of where you think that might go?
Well, I think there's some interesting pieces out there. I mean, for a UK company, broadly aligning yourself with the ICO, I would suggest is a good idea if you're going to use data. I think there's two acts, probably the US Act and the EU Act, which will ultimately become the gold standards for the world. History dictated that was predominantly where we went with things like GDPR regulation and so on and so forth. So I'm looking quite closely at the EU AI Act and also the US equivalent as a benchmark of where we think the regulation will fall. And then taking a step back, slightly more conservative route from that, and that's broadly where we think our appetite for AI exists at the moment.
And in terms of AI and its use in Heathrow, or its future use at Heathrow, what kinds of things are you looking at now, or are you looking to develop over the coming years?
I think there's a fantastic opportunity around passenger experience. I mean, the great thing about the large language models will be around language translation and how we can drive a more inclusive experience for our colleagues and passengers using some of the technology. I think there will be some efficiency gains and some automations that will be able to come out for it. We're very much at the start of that journey, and I think our focus really at the moment is will AI solve our problem? What problem are we looking to solve? And not taking a AI for AI's route, which others may or may not be doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, do you think that there's a danger that some organisations look at AI like a magic wand?
I think the market is generally pitching AI as a magic wand, and I think they could end up being incredibly expensive magic wands, or magic wands that subsequently need to comply with future regulation.
A lot of organisations sense that they should be using AI, but many of them simply aren't ready to implement it.
Yes.
So what prep work do you think enterprise needs to be undertaking to prepare for that, to be ready for that?
So I think there are two things that you've got to be really prepared for. The first is quality of data. and data governance. Do you have good quality data? Is that data going to drive a differentiation in experience? Is it well organised? Is it well structured? Is it well understood? And the second is compute. And one of the challenges with cloud is that it can be used as much as you can possibly consume. And that's going to drive a significant amount of cost. So you need to be working with a partner organisation that's looking at your cloud computing for you to make sure that you're able to deploy these technologies within your cloud infrastructure cost effectively. Because if you don't implement it correctly, if you don't have the engineers and the architecture owners that are really focusing on the implementation of these technologies, you're going to find that it's going to become very, very costly, very, very fast. And we saw that with cloud, and we're going through a similar pattern at the moment.
And is AI something that you think will be aligned to the CDO, kind of under the data banner, or do you think it's heading somewhere else?
I think it's the next big debate. I have a personal view, and I think that AI will lend itself more to a chief technology officer role, or a CDO that's got some really good technology skills in terms of the underlying architecture, because AI is as much a compute problem as it is a data problem. And I don't think you'll solve the AI agenda without looking at it through both lenses. So I think it will come back towards maybe a CTO role more, but there are a lot of very talented CDOs out there that understand the technology really, really well, and I think they will thrive in this environment as well.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a couple of things earlier, actually, about cost control.
Yes.
And obviously that's one of the areas that needs to be carefully looked at. What are some of the other risks around not getting the foundations right, do you think?
So cost, having the data, having the quality of the data that you're having in, getting distracted in your business, looking at use cases for AI that don't directly improve their business. A real clear focus on what are you trying to achieve as a business, and does AI genuinely achieve that? I mean, a good example, if you're a customer service organisation and you put in AI chatbots, are you taking people away from humans? And how many of your customers want to speak to a human on a day-to-day basis versus artificial intelligence? Particularly when the regulation may get to a point where you have to declare every time your customer's interfacing with artificial intelligence that that's the case. That sort of cookie scenario where, every time you do something, you've got to agree to talk to AI, and will your customers want that? Is that appetite there?
We've noticed the conversation changing from what can we do with our data and how can we put in more intelligence around our data and gain more insights from our data, to how can we use AI and what should we do with AI? You said that it's important that you get your data right before starting to think about what you should be doing with AI. Could you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Particularly around let's take large language models as an example. The volume of bias and the volume of hallucination will be directly proportional to the quality of the data that you're putting in. So if you're loading a large language model with a lot of documents that are factually incorrect, then you can be absolutely guaranteed that the answers that the large language model gives you will be factually incorrect. So what I mean by that is you've got to make sure that you're training the system on data that would represent itself. And the current large language models that are available on the internet for people to use are based on volumes of information on the internet. So the grammar, punctuation and spelling of a large language model on the internet is the sum total of the punctuation, grammar and spelling of the internet. And that's not a perfect source of data. So having really, really clean, accurate source information is important.
In the whole kind of LLM space,
yes,
the chat GTPs and the like, how much of an impact do you think that will have at Heathrow as compared to some of the kind of the models that people don't talk about, or the kind of more niche uses of AI?
It's a catalyst for change. It's brought AI to the to the table in terms of a conversation, but some of the work that's been done around computer vision is really important. And there are other areas. There are many other disciplines. It's certainly allowed us to take a much sharper focus on data science and some of the recommendation engine type stuff that you can work on. So the LLM stuff, it has broadened the conversation. I don't know yet, but I'm interested to find out how much of our estate will be powered by that particular type of technology in the end, and how much of it will have generated other conversations within other disciplines within the field.
And lots of people are, worried about the potential impacts of AI, and I suppose with any kind of new technology or innovation or kind of large societal change, people worry about their jobs and their future prospects. I mean, do you see AI having a big impact on the workforce? What are the things that AI could do well, and what are the things that you don't think it'll ever be able to replace?
I can't speak for the global workforce as a whole. I have a really strong passion for ethics, and I think the next big conversation in any organisation should be, what are our ethics as an organisation, and how's artificial intelligence going to align to the ethics of our organisation? I don't think that's through policies. I think defining ethical policies probably isn't going to work, but you have to create a conversation within the business to draw people from right across the business that have an interest in ethics as well and doing the right thing, and understanding how that group of people are going to shape what an organisation feels it should or shouldn't be doing with artificial intelligence. And I'm fortunate enough working for Heathrow that we have some really strong ethical values, and there's going to be plenty of engagement around the AI ethics topic at Heathrow over the next forever many years as this goes on. But we should always make a decision as organisations as to what we're doing. Is it the right thing to do? Mm-hmm. For our customers, for society, and if the answer is yes, then we should do it. And if the answer is no, then that's not something we should be doing with AI. But it's a collective problem, a global collective problem, and at the moment it seems like regulation is the only tool that we've got to manage it at a global level.
Okay, so it sounds like Heathrow are already starting to think about the ethics side of things,
yes,
and obviously have one eye on the regulation that's just around the corner.
Yes.
In terms of more kind of general governance around AI, are there any other things that you're exploring at the moment?
So there has to be something around financial governance, and particularly around making sure that we've got a good understanding of how we're going to financially govern the AI. I think there's also an angle around duplication, and how do we understand how the entire organisation is using it. It's going to be a democratised technology. It's not going to be a technology that could be controlled by a CDO or by a CIO. The business case is beyond that now. So the other piece of governance that we're looking at is, how do we ensure that we're not duplicating similar use cases, how we're not missing opportunities for people to do something but they don't have a vehicle to be able to achieve what they need to achieve. Okay,
so you've mentioned that financial cost control a couple of times now.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard horror stories of cloud costs being sucked up through large language models and how expensive they are to run. I mean, how do you think other organisations should be trying to manage that?
take a really good, long, hard look at the costs of what you're about to deploy. Use the cloud cost calculators that are available to you. And also look at, do I need it now or do I need it in 6 months' time? Some of the smaller large language models are going to be laptop size or even mobile phone size in terms of their ability to run in 6, 12, 18 months' time. So if you're looking to solve a use case that doesn't need to be solved for 18 months, but you want to go and use an incredibly expensive piece of large language model technology today, then you might be better thinking about investing a little bit further down the line when the cost of compute comes down as these models become more and more efficient.
Yeah, and do you think that's the way it's going to go? I mean, are we going to end up in a situation where we've got the big four with their large language models gobbling up everyone else, or do you think it will kind of niche down and people will start creating and using kind of more niche models?
Well, that's the risk, is it not? I think that will depend on how the open source community responds to this, and whether the open source, if the open source community can keep a lot of this open source, then I think we've got a better chance of it sitting across a broader range of people in society. I think if all of the knowledge, all of the skills, all of the ability to execute end up in 4 big, large organisations, then I think that will be the answer. So I think keep a close eye on how well the open source community is doing in the conversation.
So do you think the future of AI is going to be led by universities or big tech?
Big tech, easily big tech. I mean, you've got to understand that an organisation or one of the hyperscalers, innovation budgets are bigger than the total value of tech within the UK. So if we, in universities, that is. So if you look at the entirety of the UK universities' tech budgets as they stand at the moment, Microsoft is spending more year on year in their innovation. So I'm not sure how universities are going to out-punch technology companies in that sort of respect. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the university approach. I think where it will be successful is where those technologies companies come together with the universities, so the universities can carry on turning out the talent that's needed in order to be able to fuel this wave, and then the technology companies can use that talent to drive innovation forwards.
Okay, and so I know you're doing a lot of thinking about this, both personally and professionally.
Yep.
Is there anything we haven't covered that you think that's really front of mind, I guess, for you at the moment in terms of this whole space?
I think the only bit that we haven't covered around the whole GPT conversation is really thinking about what you're putting into the internet and what information you're feeding these models right at the moment. Particularly from a corporate perspective, we're starting to see more and more options now where corporates can use these types of technologies without the information that's been put through them feeding the models. Look at that very, very closely. I don't think you can regulate against your employees using these types of technologies, so training is super important. And I think that's following a similar path to cybersecurity before. We were never going to be in a position with cybersecurity where we could stop everyone being hacked, but we did very quickly realise that we could increase the knowledge of the employees in our organisation much quicker if we tackle the subject head on. So don't ban the technology, educate your employees.
Do you think will be in any danger of heading for another Cambridge Analytica moment with AI and ChatGTP and people sticking stuff into these engines that are being hoovered up by data collection?
Someone somewhere is using AI at the opposite end of where I would see the ethical spectrum being. So I'm sure AI will have its incredible success stories when we discover fantastic things that will really push this world forwards and humanity forwards. And naturally, we have to expect that there will be other people at the other end of the spectrum, at that other end. But hopefully not. But I suspect the reality is something somewhere will occur in this space.
But an exciting space to be in nonetheless.
I think is this potentially the fifth industrial revolution? Are we on three? I think we're on three. No, fifth?
Oh, at least four.
At least four,
Yeah.
maybe five. Yeah, no, I think this is a real pivotal moment for the world. So it's a really interesting time.
Yeah, you mentioned it was, I think you mentioned sort of earlier that it was, it reminded you of the kind of mobile, the shift to mobile in some sort of...
It's that ability to be able to capture the imagination of non-technologists incredibly fast that tends to have the shift. And this round of AI, the generative AI phase, has captured the imagination of the world. So yes, I think it's probably similar to the mobile revolution. That's probably where I would place it on that scale.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.